Welcome back to the Prop Shop Live. I am your host, Bobby Stanley, also known as PropHolliday on Twitter, rocking with the GoldBoys. We have not conference, we have divisional round weekend, 2 games today, 2 games on Sunday, and I am happy to announce we have a guest. We have the godfather of gambling discords, the owner creator of the Moonshot discords, and a purveyor of 2 touchdown scores. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kenny.
Purveyor of 2 touchdown scores. That is
You got to steal that one, dude.
that is that is that is filthy, man. Man, you're breaking up the thesaurus at 10:06 a.m. Eastern time. Look at this guy. Let's go.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. Fun talking to you a little bit pre-show. Obviously, talking everything between Eagles Rams, which I'm sure that we'll get to. A little bit of fatherhood and future fatherhood stuff. I'll be hitting you up for plenty of advice, I'm sure, these next few months. But life's good, brother. How are you doing?
I'm living the dream. I got my second one. I have a daughter now. I do probably I'll call it a full pot of black coffee every morning. I was doing dry January. I haven't hit a parlay in all of January, and my Discord's like, dude, you got to have a drink. So I caved. I had a glass of wine yesterday, just get the juices flowing. And today I'm probably going to slam some beers for football. So dry January is over in the Stanley household. We gave it a shot. The gambling is way more important, but we have 4 games today. I would say 2 of the better matchups are tomorrow, despite the weather. But we have the 2 of the 1 seeds today. We're going to kick it off, guys. Go through all 4 games for you. Starts with the Texans plus 8.5 in Kansas City. The total sits at 41.5. Stroud last week goes 22 of 33 for 282, a touchdown and an interception, 6 rushes for 42 yards in that game. I think we're going to talk about his rushing a little bit. Mixon and Nico Collins, they both scored against the Chargers. This is a game I don't really have a feel for. I have plays in every other game. I don't really have a firm, like, one unit, this player prop over under in this game. And I think a lot of that has to do with so many different iterations of Kansas City this season. Hollywood Brown goes down earlier in the year. Then Pacheco goes down. They trade for Nuke Hopkins. Kelsey looks like a shell of himself, nowhere near an all-pro tight end. Kareem Hunt filled in nicely. And then, we get a resurgence, a little bit of Xavier Worthy. Then Hollywood Brown comes back. Hunt looks good. I don't know what to make of this Chiefs team because it's been molding throughout the season. Give me your gut feel just right off the bat with Texans Chiefs, man.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I agree with you in the sense of I'm having, I think, a tougher time with this game compared to the other 3 in terms of like committing to some semblance of a game script to maybe build around for like an SGP. I do think this game is probably one of the more unpredictable ones. But then on the flip side of that, like I think my favorite prop of the entire weekend, I got this one earlier in the week, came in this game. So there's a few individual spots that I feel pretty good about. But then from an overall game standpoint, like I do think I'm a little more pessimistic here. Like I think if there's one game that has a chance to, for lack of a better word, just be a letdown in terms of the overall electricity of the game or just overall like output, I feel like this game kind of has that written all over it. Everyone is starved for football. It's the first game of the weekend. And we've seen this with Kansas City, man. Like, I feel like you think of, peak Kansas City, peak Mahomes, and it's just electricity. It's just 50-yard bombs. And the new iteration of this team it's just ball control and clock milking, especially when they have a lead. They've got, again, with a healthy Pacheco now, I'm curious to see how he looks today. He did not look great in the few games he played coming back from injury. But again, they haven't played in 3 weeks now. I imagine everyone on this team is fully healthy. But we've seen it time and time again where they get the ball, up 6 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter and they bleed the entire clock down. So yeah. I'm tempering my expectations for this game, but there are a few solo spots that I grabbed pretty early in the week that I'm happy to talk through.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you, man. I can't put my finger on this one. I could see it be a dud. Looking at the 8.5, I don't see anyone pounding sand for the Chiefs on any of the gambling Twitter people I follow, or some of the sharper guys, kind of call them the official guys. I don't see anyone saying lay the points with Kansas City. I was I was high on the Chargers going into the postseason. I thought they had a really good head coach QB combo. They were able to run the ball. I thought they played better than average defense, and then they let me down. Now I don't know what to make of it. I pulled a couple interesting stats from NFL Pro, some of their insights for this game in terms of the matchup. Texans effective this season in defending rushes between the tackles, minus 87 yards over expected. Chiefs run the ball between the tackles at the ninth highest rate this season. So that's your Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. Not a great matchup for them if they're going to break something between the tackles there. And then the Chiefs' third most yards after catch this season, sixth most yak per reception. Texans allowed the most yak per reception. So could we see an Xavier Worthy, a Hollywood Brown, and Nuke Hopkins explode there? And then Chiefs defense allowed a league high 1,191 passing yards, fourth highest passing success rate in the NFL to quarterbacks targeting the tight ends this season. Now that kind of fits with, all right, Nico Collins doesn't have a great matchup. I have no clue if it's going to be a Mechie or a Robert Woods game. Maybe we get an Xavier Hutchinson explosive play. We had one last week. But Dalton Schultz is a guy I have my eye on. Maybe it's just having some type of edge. I like Dalton Schultz there. But talk about, you had something that you said on Twitter earlier in the week, and I actually totally agree with it. It's more quarterbacks in the playoffs are a little bit more exemplary to run. They're more tuck it and run, just pick up the yards, keep the drive going. The injuries I'm less concerned about in the regular season than I am in the playoffs. I know you like some quarterback rushing props today, especially in this game.
Yeah, so to start, like you said, I just like quarterback rushing yards in the playoffs in general. I feel like I just don't think that the extra willingness to put the body on the line, I think it gets priced in all that often. And we saw it with Stroud last week. So, I watched like every snap of the Texans Chargers game, and his Stroud's first scramble, I think it was on their final drive of the first half. It was like a 3rd and 10, and he broke one, and then could have slid down, juked a guy out, and then took an extra, I think, like 15 yards on top of it. It was like a 27-yard rush, and like that's something you didn't see him do once the entire regular season. And like you watch the guy, like he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's not completely immobile. And one thing I've realized is because of how little that he scrambles during the regular season, like nobody's spying CJ Stroud. Like the defenses are essentially giving his legs no respect. And in that Chargers game, prior to that long run he had at the end of the first half, there were 2 or 3 other instances prior to that where he had a lane to run for first downs. And even like the commentators were kind of calling that out. He opted not to run. I think they didn't convert them. And then he had the one long one at the end of the first half. And then I think scrambled 3 or 4 times in the second half. Their offense started to hum. He helped extend drives. I just think that they're looking at the tape like, hey, dude, like you have a free 8 yards essentially every time you drop back if you want to take it here. So number one, I like quarterback rushing yards in the playoffs. I think the Texans are going to need him to use his legs to extend some drives today just because of how stingy this Chiefs defense is. And from a like defensive scheme perspective, the Chiefs play man coverage, I think, more than any team in the NFL, and that is conducive to quarterback rushing yards. So I just think it's a perfect storm here. The eye test, watching Stroud scramble against the Chargers last week sold me enough. So the first props I bet this entire week were Stroud 25 rushing yards and Stroud 40 plus rushing yards. I think I got them at like 270 and 1100. They're plus 250 and plus 980 now. I think I can still get behind them there. But yeah, Stroud rushing yards was the first prop I clicked this week. And then I did bet his anytime touchdown. I think it's like 12-1. That was kind of just like the, hey, if I'm banking on him scrambling, it's kind of like the mandatory extra donation here. One thing I did find interesting, though, against the Chargers, I believe there was only one situation the entire game where they were in short yardage. It was a 4th and 1, I think, on the Chargers, like 30-yard line. And Stroud took it up the middle, got like 3 yards and got it easily. So I do see a scenario here where it's 1st and goal from the 8 and he scrambles one in, or it's, they're on the 1 yard line and they just opt to tush push it with him instead. So I am banking on CJ Stroud scrambling and winning me some money today.
I like it. I have no disagreements there. Probably when we close up the show, I'll throw the Stroud 25 plus, 40 plus, and then maybe I'll find something else to do that little round robin I was talking about. Kenny with the Stroud and the rushing yards. For me, I don't have much I love in this game. Instead of normally we do a touchdown liquor cabinet at the end of the show. We're not doing that today, but I will throw. I put a quarter of a unit on Schultz anytime touchdown plus 333. If you have Bally's, which no one does, I think. Oh no, I'm sorry. BetMGM, it was plus 475 last night. I mentioned the tight end piece about the QB success rate against the Chiefs with tight ends. If Stroud finally picks up that edge and picks up that mismatch in film this week, I think we could see at least a garbage time touchdown from Schultz. And he may be a guy that I throw in there for my DraftKings, what is it, King of the Field bonus bet. You get to pick up the 3 guys in that, so he may be one of those I throw in there. So I got a quarter of unit on Schultz. Kenny likes Stroud. You got a long shot for me on a touchdown score in this game, Ken?
I do. Not to repeat myself, but my long shot is Stroud. So I bet Stroud at 12-1. I went back and forth a little bit. I'm not going to click it, so this isn't going to be like a secret bet. I don't want to have too much action on this game. I do think, like, I agree with you on the tight end angle against KC, and obviously Dalton Schultz clearly makes the most sense. And I think you're getting a pretty good price on him. I do think the biggest FU to the gambling community would be like Irv Smith scoring a touchdown today, and his snaps do continue to trickle up, man. And with I do wonder if they start to give him a little more of the Stover snaps. But again, I like Stroud on the Chiefs side. I don't really think this is like, there's not a whole lot of like deep analytics going into this year. I just think if you're betting a Chiefs touchdown score, Nuke Hopkins at plus 320, I think you could do a whole lot worse. Yep. He's got 4 touchdowns, I think, in his 8 games with the Chiefs. You want to throw in like the Texans revenge angle, be my guest. I don't really, play into that too much in the playoffs here. It's just, I look at what the Chiefs offense is going to look like today, and you're going to see Worthy play the entire game. Hollywood Brown play probably 70% of the snaps, and then Nuke's going to play somewhere between 50 to 70. And then some sprinklings of a little bit of Justin Watson, maybe a little bit of Juju. But again, I think Nuke is at worst like wide receiver 2 today. I think he's still the go-to target in the red zone. He's got the trust of Mahomes. I think Nuke at plus 320 was the first, at least just looking at the odds as they are right now. I think that's the best price on the board. So I played Nuke, and then you know how I roll. If I'm betting somebody to score a touchdown, you got to do the mandatory donation on 2+. I'm seeing 3,200 Nuke Hopkins 2+.
Yep. No, I agree with you there. And just to be clear, he doesn't hate the Texans. He hates Bill O'Brien. Like you said, we don't want to do too much on this game. Let's head over to the total that sits at 55.5 in a playoff game. We got the Commanders getting 9.5. There's some 8.5s out there if you're betting Detroit. Daniels looked the part last week against Tampa all season. And actually, I was looking into this last night. He's gotten better in the fourth quarter, which is rare for a rookie quarterback. What do I mean by better in the fourth quarter? Well, he has, where did I have this? His completion percentage, his QBR, air yards per attempt, total touchdowns are all highest in the fourth quarter compared to any other quarter. You don't see that in rookie QBs. You usually see it flip the opposite, stronger in the first half. As far as the matchup works for him in the sense that the only one of the 2 teams that blitz more than the Bucs are the Detroit Lions. Bucs were 3rd in the NFL. Lions are 2nd. He did fine with the blitz last week. David Montgomery is back. I don't know what to expect from his workload, especially when you see how well Jahmyr Gibbs performed. Does Montgomery get goal line touches? Yeah, probably. Is he going to play a lot between the 20s? Not sure. I just don't know what to expect from Gibbs, from Montgomery. If you look at his TD price, it's like minus 150, minus 155, which is good for a healthy him. I still won't bet that. But again, I don't know what to expect from him this game back. Gut feeling, 9.5 is too much for me in this game. I always love seeing a team playing with house money in the playoffs. That's what this is for Washington. Anything more than getting out of the first round was icing on the cake. I don't think they win, but I think they can make this competitive, and it'd be really interesting in their future, or for their future, if they can say, oh shit, we went toe-to-toe with Detroit in the second round. They ended up going to the Super Bowl that year, yada, yada, yada. You bring in more free agents next season. So this is all icing. And then just a couple small stats from me on the NFL Pro side. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, each scored a touchdown in the same game 5 times this season, most by any trio in the NFL. Commanders have won 6 games in 2024 in which they have trailed in the fourth quarter, including the playoffs, which are the most of any team in the NFL, and that's with a rookie quarterback. And the Lions have not lost a game when leading in the fourth quarter. So give me your thoughts, man. This one is screaming touchdown scores, but do we fall victim to some shitty lines?
I think you're definitely going to fall victim to shitty lines. You're right. The game screams touchdown scores. The total's 55.5, which is downright absurd for a playoff game. But the top 3 touchdown scorers on the board are all sub minus 120. So in fairness, too, I mean, it does make sense. Initial thoughts, I agree with you. I think 9.5 does feel like too much here. I have the same idea. Like I like a team playing with house money, and like there's a lot more pressure on the Detroit Lions here, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like coming into the season, they were supposed to be here. This is the Dan Campbell team of destiny. They've been at worst like the second favorite in the NFC virtually the entire year. I will say, like, the return of one player, and it's not David Montgomery, I think is sort of giving me a little pause in this game. Like Alex Anzalone, him being back against him in that Vikings game was an absolute game wrecker. He had TJ Hawkinson in jail virtually that entire game, and it just gave their defense a little bit of extra juice that they hadn't had in like the 2 months leading up to that. I mean, like this defense has been Swiss cheese, which hasn't been a problem because they can score 40 points a game. Anzalone is just such a difference maker that it does give them a little bit more.
Yeah. Kenny, can you hear me, man? Ken, throw your hand up if you can hear me, dude. I think we lost your audio. Sorry about that, guys. A little technical difficulties on our end. I think he was telling everybody to hammer Jameer Gibbs at minus 200. No, I'm joking. Nobody's going to do that. Um, I do have a play for this game. We're going to let Kenny get back up, so I'm not going to waste any airtime for you guys. I like Austin Eckler over 51.5 rushing and receiving yards. Ken, we got you? Yeah, my bad, man. It's all good. Go ahead. Start it up. After talking about you were left off at Anzalone before it cut off. What do you
Yeah, so
mention?
Anzalone has just been it was just such a difference maker. He had Hawkinson in jail last game, and the biggest problem with this Lions team was their defense has been Swiss cheese for the better part of 2 months. They finally showed up against Minnesota, so I do have a little more confidence in the Lions with him back.
Mhm.
I agree with you. I think if I'm picking a spread here, I think I'm leaning the Commanders with the points, and I'll be honest, man. If we're in the trust tree here, I think the Commanders might be live. I think the Commanders could win this game. I really truly do. Now I'm not going to get there at like plus 380 on the money line or whatever it is. I guess we'll see how my first game goes, but I just think one, you get Washington playing with house money. I think that Daniel's ceiling is as high as humanly possible, and
Yeah.
I just think this is going to be a game of like which team gets the first stop on first down. Like it's two teams that don't want to punt and may not punt at all today. I think whatever team gets the first stop on first down, first stop on fourth down, probably wins this game.
I was telling Tone before the show, I could see it be like, all right, Detroit comes out hot. They've been planning for this game. They go through their, the plan play, the game script. It's 14-3. Okay. Washington comes up with a stop. It's 14-10. Oh shit, halftime. It's 20-13 or 21-13. And Detroit doesn't feel comfortable. And I can remember back to week one. I think it was Monday Night Football opening weekend. It was Rams Lions. It goes into overtime. Went into overtime. Campbell ran the ball every single play with Montgomery in that overtime against the Rams. It was the right move. They won the game completely, took over. But the fact that he didn't go to Jared Goff in an overtime in a game at home, I think is pretty telling. They're going to need to have the run game going. I love Jared Goff. He has a soft spot in my heart for him. But if he's not playing with the lead and he starts turning the ball over, like you said, Washington could be live. Now, unfortunately, their defense hasn't been great. Lattimore is a great addition, but if they can get pressure, if they can get to Jared Goff and disguise some things, it could be an interesting game. So I would lead the 9.5. I do have one play in this. I have a 1 unit straight play on this. It's Eckler, Austin Eckler, over 51.5 rushing and receiving yards. You could still get this line on a few different books. His rush attempts are sitting at 6.5 with the juice to the under. But let's say he gets 6. When he gets 6 or more, he hits this in 6 to 7 games this season. I can see the Commanders getting from behind early, but like I said, clawing back in, and then Brian Robinson becomes obsolete at that point. Dink and dunk snaps, big chunk plays. We talk about that blitz. The reason I think he wasn't as utilized in that Tampa game is because the game was always close. It never got away from that at any point. If this gets away from Washington, Eckler plays a big role. And when trailing this season, 42 touches for 249 yards is the highest of any game situation for Eckler, whether it be neutral, whether it be tie, whether it be playing with the lead, 5.9 yards per touch. I think Eckler has a role in this offense. as a check down guy? Can they disguise some stuff with the rush early? He's going to get between 4 and 6 carries. I feel good about that. But I like Eckler for 1 unit over 51.5. Playing with that 9.5 point spread, it tells me Eckler's playing over 50% of the snaps versus a Brian Robinson. You got anything for this you feel good about?
I agree with you completely. I think the Eckler angle makes a ton of sense, and just the eye test, man. Like I love Brian Robinson. He just hasn't looked that explosive. Like forget potential game script here, especially if they're trailing. Like you could argue Eckler may have looked better just in the last couple of games since he's come back from injury. So I love Eckler today. And then I think if you want one other Commanders prop, I think Zacchaeus makes a lot of sense too. Again, trailing game script, going to be throwing a lot, and slot receivers have had a ton of success against Detroit all year. Really, any kind of wide receivers. Like they're going to play their press man. They're going to try to bring as much pressure as possible and let their secondary, get one-on-one. So I think Zacchaeus, like when it's 3.5 receptions at plus money feels pretty good. 34.5 yards feels good. And I think if I, other than Eckler, if I needed to bet a Commanders touchdown prop, that may end up that may be where I end up there. So, but I agree though. I think the Eckler angle is probably the nuts in this game.
Yeah. No, the Zacchaeus was, we talk about DraftKings and they're doing that king of the touchdown where you could split the props. Zacchaeus was a guy that producer Tone was on last week. He may be the move this week. And I'm pretty sure, please correct me in the comments, you can pick up or you can place 3 guys for that in your parlay as long as one of them cashes. Speaking of DraftKings is making it easier to start betting. You bet $5, you get 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. It's that simple. Click the link in our episode description to get started. Must be 21 plus, 18 plus in Kentucky and Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. That's how we do it, Kenny, man. I feel I fit these things in. Oh, that's a good segue talking about DraftKings. All right. This is the meat and potatoes of the pod. This is why everybody's here. This is why I invited you on. The Rams are getting 6.5 against the Eagles. Total, it was at 43.5 when I wrote this up. Probably went down even more. Is it at 41.5 now?
Now it's still 43.5, and I think that's where we should start here. I'm still very, very surprised his total hasn't moved. So why don't we start there?
You are a Philly native. I'm a Jersey native. What are you seeing on the weather for tomorrow?
I'm seeing a lot different than what I think the books might be seeing. So, and again, I preface this with this guy has hit me with this angle once before, and it did not come through. So 0 for 1 on my weatherman angle. But my buddy's a meteorologist, casual sports bettor, but he's a literal meteorologist. And he texted me a couple of days ago and was like, "Hey, dude, I can't wrap my brain around why this total isn't in the 30s. I think you guys are going to get a lot more snow than people are letting on. I think like the current forecast is like 1 to 3 inches, something like that, which is like, it's not insignificant. It's the heaviest band's going to fall during the game. My buddy has it at 4 to 6 with virtually all of it falling right around peak game time. We got a little snow in Philly yesterday, 2 days ago as well, which we weren't even supposed to get. We got like a random 2 inches. It's cold. The snow is sticking. Now, historically, and it does sound a little counterintuitive, but like if you look at weather trends and how they relate to totals, like snow itself is not necessarily conducive to an under. Actually, if it's just snow with no wind and it's only snow, it actually leads to more overs. Pass rushes get slowed down, and it's usually a bit of a boost to offenses. But there's a fine line there. Like snow and no wind is good for offenses. A fucking blizzard is not. And 4 to 6 inches, like that's some heavy snow that could be potentially falling here. So at this point, I don't have a single bet wagered on this game yet. Now we can talk through a couple of angles here, but I think if this weather forecast starts to get ironed out a little more and it's looking more like it's that 4 to 6, I think the total comes down. I think rushing props probably go up a little bit, but I think we're going to get a vintage snow game here. And again, last time Matthew Stafford stepped into Philadelphia in a snow game, I think LaShawn McCoy gave him like 400 yards and blew him out. So I feel confident in my Eagles. I'm curious how you feel about your Rams coming into this.
Your friends are meteorologists. Mine are alcoholics. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I told you before the show, I didn't feel confident last week against Minnesota just because I didn't know what to expect with them coming off the worst loss. I feel even less confident in this game because the biggest mismatch of the game lies in favor of Philadelphia. It's the run game. The Rams can't stop the run. I think it was 255 yards for Saquon. They can't stop mobile quarterbacks. And I'll talk about Jalen Hurts in my prop. The only reason I had to feel positive is because I think the better head coach is Sean McVay. I think the better quarterback's Matt Stafford. But if it's 4 to 6 inches of snow, that edge goes to shit. I wanted Detroit in round two as much as possible. I wanted to avoid this game at all costs until the NFC Championship game. Um, Looking at the 37-20 in week 12 has no bearing on this game. The teams look completely different on both sides of the ball, or just both teams in general. The Rams didn't have Rob Havenstein. The Rams didn't have Tyler Higbee. Akella Witherspoon wasn't starting. The Eagles don't have Nakobe Dean. They don't have Brandon Graham. But I can't get over the weather. I can't get over the snow. And if you have Saquon Barkley, that's offensive player of the year, his rushing total was at 20 and a half rush attempts last night. And if your weather angle is true, that's going to go up to 21 and a half, 22 and a half. And they should pound the rock constantly against this young Rams defense. And that's what they are. They're young. They get after the passer really well. Their secondary has played well lately, but they make a lot of mistakes. And I was impressed with the tackling last week against Minnesota. I see a ball dumped off in the flat, and I'm like, oh, shit, this is going to go for 7-8 yards. They stopped them dead in their tracks. I don't know if you can expect that against Saquon and Dallas Goedert in Philadelphia. So I don't feel good. If the game goes to the under, which it should, that should favor Philly. Philadelphia has never lost a divisional game at home. I think they're like 6-0, which is, I hope they start announcing this on TV. When you hear those start being brought up by Joe Buck, you should feel good about them going the other way. But I have a play in this. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I don't feel good. I don't feel confident. I think everything favored the way it's shaking out. I think everything favors the way Philly plays football.
Look, I just think, without being a homer here, man, I just think top to bottom on every side of the ball, and you may disagree with this, but I think in virtually every single position, I think Philly's better. I've got a Matt Stafford Lions jersey in my closet. Like, I'm a big Stafford guy. I wear it every Thanksgiving. I have a lot of love in my heart for Matthew Stafford, and I think even to this day, he's still one of the most underrated quarterbacks ever. Like, right now in 2025, I think I would rather have Jalen Hurts at quarterback than Matthew Stafford. I think it's really close. I think the three of them are in the same class with those two and Baker. I think they're probably the three closest comparisons here. But I just think top to bottom, I think Philly matches up better. Home, at the link, add in the snow, add in the cold. This would be a catastrophic Eagles loss if they don't get it done tomorrow. So I am very confident in my Birds. I think we get it done. I think we win comfortably, unfortunately.
Yeah. I could see 21-10. Just because the Rams, they're not. If we had Blake Corum, I'd feel a little bit better saying, okay, we're going to run the ball 18 times with Kyron Williams. We're going to run the ball 12 times with Corum, Michigan guy. He can grind it out in the yards. He's done for the rest of the year. None of their backups fit that mold of I can churn out 3-4 yards a clip, and that's what they're going to need. I would disagree with you on the quarterback piece. That's probably it. I would take their skill. I would definitely take Philly's skill position players over the Rams. Offensive line, if I got more of it from LA over the course of the season, but I haven't. I've only gotten probably 3-4 game sample size. It was positive. But yeah, no, I think only Stafford is where I disagree with you there. And in this game, that really isn't going to matter. He's not going to be throwing the ball 35 times.
I have a question for you. Do you think the Rams, this isn't a trick question, do you think the Rams score a touchdown? Yeah. If you think the Rams score, I don't know how you don't go and just, without thinking, just go click Kyron Williams at even money. I'm looking now, his best closing price this entire season was minus 145. Minus 145. And that was actually his closing price against the Vikings last week. He was minus 300 against Arizona, and he was minus 180 to minus 200 the entire year. And he has even money Sunday. This dude had 16 touchdowns this year. So it's if you have any faith whatsoever in the Rams offense, and you're a little more bullish on the Rams than I am, I don't know how you look anywhere else on the board but Kyron at even money.
And I have him in some stuff. And if this face looks bullish, that's the coffee talking. No, I don't feel great. I don't feel great about tomorrow in general.
Can I ask you a question about the Rams real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you, obviously you're a bigger fan, you know the team better, you watch every single snap. What is the eye test telling you about what's happened to Cooper Kupp for the last 5 weeks? Is it just a matter of Puka's getting better matchups, Puka's better, and if he's open, there's no need to throw it to Kupp? Or is Kupp still hurt? Is he not getting open? Is he not getting separation? Because it's just across the board. His production is just completely and utterly plummeted. And it's like, well, now you're getting like the biggest Cooper Cup dip pretty much in his entire career. Is this the week to do it? Or have you watched him be shitty enough for a month to just go, you know what? It's just that he doesn't have it right now. Like, what's happening with Cooper Cup?
It's the latter. He's not getting separation. The advanced metrics kind of prove that. His routes have become less lateral, more vertical. That's where they're using him, and he's not getting separation in those routes. Now he had one big play last week where he did get separation, and that was really his.
He could have scored there too. Stafford underthrew it a little bit. I think he had him beat.
I do think he's still banged up. I mean, he's a 32-year-old white wide receiver with a shit ton of injuries under his belt. And then in the other part of this is kind of how Matt Stafford operates. When he loves a guy, we know this over the history of his career, he just beats him to death, and that's Puka now. That's your 9 to 12 targets a game is going to him. Those intermediate routes, Demarcus Robinson. He has a bit of a connection with him there on the third and longs, and then Tyler Higbee comes back, and he's the tight end we needed that we didn't get when we signed Colby Parkinson. So I think Cooper Kupp is pretty much relegated to red zone at this point. So if you're talking about touchdowns, that's the only way I would bet him. But his yards, I wouldn't touch. His receptions, I wouldn't touch. And then the way Sean McVay is drawing it up, those short intermediate screens where it's like, all right, it's 3rd and 4. We're going three wide receiver set to the right. It's Puka that's peeling off, and everyone else is doing the blocking. And everybody's giving this guy a comparison. He's Anquan Bolden. That's who he is. He's Anquan Bolden 2.0, and he's churning out these extra yards. So the play calling favors Puka. Stafford favors Puka. Cooper's not getting separation. I do think he's injured, and this is kind of who he is. Unless he's willing to take a pay cut, he's gone. He's Adam Thielen 2.0. He's Jordy Nelson later in his career. They're stereotypes, but for a good reason.
Hey, Adam Thielen just had the best year of his entire career.
He is. Maybe he doesn't get to Adam Thielen, but it's the older Jordy Nelson that I just it sucks, man. It sucks seeing one of your favorite players probably the last 6 years. This is what he's relegated to, and someone will pay him. Someone like Tampa will pick him up. Someone like Kansas City will pick him up. They'll throw him some money. I hope he doesn't go that route. I hope he takes a kind of a hometown discount. But if I had to guess the score, 21-10 Philly would be my guess. I think Hurts gets in. I think Saquon gets in. Maybe A.J. Brown gets one. But for the Rams to win this game, they're going to have to get up early, and they're going to have to not turn the ball over. And unfortunately, Kyron Williams did that, I think, on the first drive in Week 12 against Philly. They're going to have to not commit a shit ton of penalties, which I took discrepancy with last week against Minnesota. Yeah, they won the game handedly. There was, I think, 10 or 11 penalties on the Rams side. There was 2 against Minnesota. That's a choice. You can call penalties on every single play of an NFL game if you choose to. And the choice to call 10 against the Rams and 12 against Minnesota was a cognizant one. So I didn't make an impact on the game. I'm not the...
They won 27-9, and you're hollering at the officials?
I don't like that. If you're going to call everything on both sides. If you're going to call nothing, I want to see 3 penalties on each side. That I don't like. There should be no disparity ever in a penalty game. That's my opinion.
Learn the rules. You guys should learn the rules better.
I guess so, man. We're doing
Mike, one question for you. There may not be one. Like, is there a wide receiver 4 on your team to like potentially look at for a dart, or is it just D-Rob, Kupp, Nakua playing the entire game? Just looking at snap counts last week. Now, again, you guys were in full control of this game virtually the entire game. Like, Kupp played 55% of the snaps last week. I imagine if you guys are trailing, even with, again, we talked about his limited production and sort of what he is right now as a 32-year-old, I still think he's playing more than 55% of the snaps.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Tutu played 1 snap. Xavier Smith doesn't play. Tyler Johnson was inactive. Jordan Whittington played 21%. But, I mean, did all of them come in the fourth quarter pretty much when the game was over?
More or less. I mean, if this game wasn't snowing, I'd say throw a dart at Tutu, but he's not going to have much of a role there. Xavier Smith is interesting because he returns punts, and they use him in kind of like a scat back Percy Harvin type role. So if you could find one of the books where, like defensive special teams touchdowns count, Xavier Smith might be worth.
He's 50. I mean, again, it would be thin as hell, but he's 50-1 on FanDuel if you want to take that home run route.
Nah, I'm not in a game with 43.5, and I actually trust your friend with the meteorology angle. All right, we're going a little bit long. I'm going to throw my one play out here. I got Jalen Hurts at 37.5 rushing yards. I love this. I went back and watch all of his 12 rushing attempts in the Week 12 game. Obviously, this is different, but of those 12 rushing attempts, 3 of them were tush pushes. 9 were designed plays, meaning it was with him in mind. And I think 37.5 is too low. It's 39.5 on a few other books, and I went with the alt line on 50 plus. Barkley should go off, but I like Hurts. Do you have any feel as far as how the run game shakes out with Philly between Hurts and Saquon?
I mean, you know what you're going to get. I mean, Saquon's sitting at 111.5. So, like, I don't really know what you do with that. I think Gainwell at 9.5 is still more than fair. Like, again, they clearly are not afraid to work him in. It's like every 2 drives, he gets a couple of plays. And again, if you think it snows more than they're letting on, and it's a little more run heavy. I mean, Gainwell will get his touches. Usually it's like, I feel like they bring him in like at the 30-yard line when they're close to the red zone. He gets to the 5, and then they bring the big guns back in here. But Gainwell over 9.5 rush yards feels pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I will say I will be a simp for the narrative here, but AJ Brown touchdown at plus 145. Like the last, you had the quote unquote fake drama that him and Hurts didn't like each other, and that there was issues in the locker room. Then he came out and scored, I think, first touchdown the following week. This week, you get the AJ Brown book club, which has been the talk of the talk of sports media throughout the last couple of days. It's a nothing burger. I'm telling you right now, AJ Brown's going to score. He's going to do like a book reading celebration in the end zone, and the link is going to go absolutely fucking bananas. So AJ Brown at plus 145, he is scoring tomorrow.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm on Hurts for my one play. You're not going to get a Rams bet out of me. I know LaShawn McCoy and Aaron Donald went back and forth. Aaron Donald, don't lay 50 fucking grand money line if you're not getting odds. Take the goddamn points. You bet them 50 G straight up, just because you got 50 grand to throw around. I don't know if anybody saw that on Instagram Live, but we have the game. Did you have any closing comments on the Eagles? Rams?
Just one. Go Birds. That's it.
Gotta have it. Ravens minus 1.5. The line flipped. I think it opened up at Ravens plus 1.5. We were at Ravens minus 1.5 in Buffalo. Another snow game. It's coming down right now. They'll pay all their drunk fans to come and shovel them out, but it's still going to be pretty windy and freezing in Buffalo tomorrow. I have one play on this. I want to. This is supposed to be the game. This will be the game of the week. It's why it's the Sunday night in the prime time. It's the top 2 MVP candidates. Is this the year that the Ravens finally get over the hump with Lamar Jackson? They get out of the first round. That's not that big of a deal. But this team feels a little bit different. This is the best season Lamar Jackson's ever had. And that the new offensive coordinator kind of shows that. Do they get over the hump? Do they get out of Buffalo and get to the AFC Championship game against Kansas City? What do you think?
Is it like, am I lame if I just come out and say, like, dude, I have no fucking clue? Also, we didn't talk pre-show. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on the show. Can I say? Can I curse
your ass off? Yeah. Go for
it. Dude, I have no idea. I have no lean. I have no thoughts. I hope the game is amazing. Like if you put it in absolute, if you handed me a gun and said I had to bet it, I think I would take the Bills just as home dogs. I think the Bills top to bottom are the better team. I still think Zay Flowers being out is just such a massive loss that I think they were able to hide that a little bit last week just because like Pittsburgh, they were dead walking into that stadium. I mean, they never had a shot. They were completely outmatched. This is a different animal here. And in a game where like Baltimore will have to score probably 4 touchdowns to win this game, that wasn't the case last week. And I do think the lack of Zay Flowers, like, look, Lamar had like the year of all years, and we could debate the Lamar Josh Allen MVP until dawn tomorrow. But like losing Zay Flowers is massive. And to go into Buffalo in a snow game, in a game where you've got to score 4 touchdowns, and like you're relying on Nelson Aguilar and Tylan Wallace to make plays. Like I think this has to be the Bills or nothing here. One touchdown score that I probably will get to in this game. I just think like I hear all the reasons against it, but then I'm looking, it's like I feel like they're begging you to do it with this price. And I know the snap counts are flimsy at best. He's probably capped at 50% best case scenario. It's probably lower than that, but he's getting the high priority snaps. I mean, similar to your angle with Kupp. You don't bet his receptions, but the touchdown upside is still there. Amari Cooper at 5-1, I think feels really good. Like the best way to attack in Baltimore is to go at them. They go at their secondary. They're amazing against the run. They have been better against the pass in recent weeks, but it's still the biggest deficiency. Outside of Kyle Hamilton, I just don't think their secondary is amazing. And Amari Cooper last week, I mean, he had a nothing burger on the stat sheet. I think he had 3 red zone targets. I think their first drive, they got down to the 5. They went to him twice. So again, this is why they got him, right? This was one of the biggest pickups in at the deadline this year. Amari Cooper at 5-1. Looking at the entire board here, that's the first thing I want to click, and I don't know how much more I want to click. I just want to enjoy this game.
I couldn't agree more on Amari Cooper. He was a guy I circled for this matchup because it's Baltimore. I mean, I love Keon Coleman, just his personality, and I hit a couple decent bets on him throughout the course of the year, but I don't think they go that route. You can make a case for Khalil in the slot, but no, I think Cooper's the play there. We didn't talk about this before the show, but as soon as you said Amari Cooper, my hand went up. I agree with you there. Josh Allen at plus 110, I put 1 unit on. And it's rare for me to do like a 1 unit play on a touchdown score. I did it last week with Mixon. Josh Allen in this game at home. I don't think it's going to be James Cook in the red zone. I think these are all going to be drawn up for Josh Allen, especially in this game. So Allen at plus 110. This is a guy that was minus 120 as we ended the regular season, and I actually put in a 2-touchdown parlay earlier in the week. It was Saquon 2 touchdowns, Allen 2 touchdowns, and then Saquon 1, Allen 1. That's my kind of my Sunday move. It's Allen and Saquon Barkley for me. Maybe I should pivot to Allen and Jalen Hurts, but I'm all over Josh Allen at plus money to score a touchdown in tomorrow's game. That's my favorite play in this. I agree with you on the Buffalo side. I'd be interested to see if Derrick Henry if this becomes the Derrick Henry game, if he throws the team on his back and goes for, 180 and 2 touchdowns, that's how I see them win this game. It's not going to be
I agree
Lamar
with that.
Jackson rushing. It would be Derrick Henry or nothing if Baltimore wins, but I lean Josh Allen in the Bills here.
You ever look at a board and like you see what an updated touchdown prop is, and you're just like you can't believe what it opened at? Like I got the 1 touchdown, I didn't get it for 2. When they opened this game, and I think props for this game opened while I was at the Eagles game last week, and I was just obliterated and was kind of asleep at the wheel. Lamar Jackson anytime opened at 4-1 for this game. He opened at plus 400, and 2+ was 50-1. So BMAT went and grabbed that like as fast as humanly possible, and now he's back in the Lamar Jackson zone of like plus 180. I think that's probably a little too thin, but yeah, like if I had I got Lamar 1, the 2 locked on me. Like if I had those 2 tickets, you just don't bet anything else in this game. Like, all right, I got the value on those, and now I'm just going to sit back and hope Lamar runs one in. But in the absence of that, for me, it's Amari Cooper. And again, man, just give us a game. Like with how bad the games were last weekend, this is the one that is just everyone has had circled for a month and a half now with this MVP conversation. So give us a good game. Give us a back and forth. This should be an absolute all-time classic. So NFL, don't you dare take that away from us.
Totally agree. Josh Allen's my MVP. I hope that doesn't cause a fucking stir. Before we close out, a couple words from my boy Brad Thomas.
Wait, before we get back to the picks, I wanted to thank you all for watching. Friends don't let friends watch videos without hitting the like button. So go ahead and press the thumbs up button and like the video. If you're new here and not subscribed, you should go ahead and do so because we're dropping new content each and every day on the GoldBoys Network. We strive to cover every sport and give out picks and analysis and valuable information for free on the GoldBoys Network. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell so you can get notified when we drop something new. I'm Brad Thomas. Let's get back to the picks.
Welcome back. Normally, I close, and Kenny, I don't know if you've seen the show before. I do a touchdown liquor cabinet. I do a top shelf, a mid shelf, and a well vodka. Top shelf gets top shelf prices. That's my 1 unit touchdown scores. Mid shelf, it's your Jack Daniels, it's your it's your Jameson, and then well vodka is your Majorska, which is where I'm throwing like 2 touchdown scores, a quarter of a unit, 1/10 of a unit, shit like that. I think the way we kind of shook it out, I'll just run through mine really quickly, but we cooked up 1 and 2 touchdown round robin. But my top shelf is Josh Allen at plus 110. I would put 1 unit on him to score a touchdown this weekend. My mid shelf, Dalton Schultz at plus 330. If you got it, BetMGM, it's plus 475. I don't really fuck with BetMGM, but that's a half a unit play for me there. And then my well vodka is Josh Allen plus 2 touchdowns at plus 750. Throw a quarter of a unit that way. I know you got a little bit of Damian Pierce action, and I think Damian Pierce constitutes well vodka in this scenario. You want to talk about Pierce real quick?
Yeah, so we did nuke the price pretty good, and it's unfortunate too because prior to the show, I even went and checked. Like I put it in my Discord, I tweeted it out last night, and his odds were still hanging at a pretty juicy number. I'm looking now, and he's down to 14-1. So that's like, for lack of better words, that's probably just fair. But Pierce opened it. He was 3,100 to score a TD, and look, I get it. Mixon is going to play. They said he's going to play, but he didn't practice the entire week, and I just think in a game where, number one, like the little bit we've seen of Pierce, he's looked good. He had that 98-yarder against Tennessee the last game of the year, and we both said like I didn't know that he had that kind of speed in his bag. He clearly has shed some weight and has become more of a speed back, but like he is the direct 1-to-1 backup to Mixon. Now, all things being equal, everybody's healthy. Like Abungawale is more of the traditional third down back, but if Mixon is limited in any way whatsoever, or again, God forbid, don't wish it on anybody, but he gets banged up at any point, this is Pierce's backfield. So Pierce at 3,100, I thought was just instantly worth a click. At 1,400, you want to put $10 on it and pray, be my guest. It definitely gets a little more thin there. But I think Damian Pierce at 3,100, I just felt like was just like, yeah, if he doesn't see the field, like it is what it is. But at 3,100, there's a lot of scenarios that lead to him potentially, getting on the field and getting high value carries. So I thought Pierce was worth the click there.
Oh, definitely. And I agree with your assessment. Yeah, Mixon was out all week. It was more just kind of housekeeping to keep him fresh, but maybe Pierce gets one or two series as a spell in the first half. Maybe he gets one in the second half. Maybe the game gets out of hand. I don't know. But seeing Pierce turn on the Jets against Tennessee in week 18, didn't think he had that left in him. He wasn't that type of back. So at 31-1, that's why you are who you are, man. Did you put $5 or anything? Not you that you bet $5. Did you put anything on 2 touchdowns, or they didn't even offer it?
They didn't even offer it. That's one where it's just like you hammer it twice, and then you potentially let one go if the cash out gets up. So I haven't been able to look. I will after the show, but I imagine the cash out. If we got him at 31 and he's sitting at 14, they're probably offering like 1.8. I don't know. You can almost double your money if you want to just let it go. So I'm going to at least I'll put that out in Mooney Gang and say, hey, the free roll's there if you want it.
No, I agree with you, man. So what we did, Kenny talked about Nuke Hopkins at the top of the show. He was 1 touchdown and then 2 touchdowns. That's in the first slate of the day. I took Austin Eckler 1 touchdown. I think it's like plus 260, plus 275, depending on your book. And then 2 touchdowns, like plus 3,300. If this game gets away from Washington, I think Eckler gets the lion's share of snaps. He is a receiving option, and the total's sitting at 55.5. So I round robin Nuke 1 and 2 with Eckler 1 and 2. It's a total of 4 combinations. So you can get Nuke 1 touchdown parlayed with Eckler 1, and then Eckler 2, and then Nuke 2 touchdowns with Eckler. You get the idea. I just invested half a unit between all 4 combinations, and that's kind of my flyer today. I think $20. If it goes 2 touchdowns for each, and somehow we hit that, call it the moonshot, it's like $5,800 on a $20 bet. But it's just something fun for conference weekend. That's kind of our out there move. I'm throwing in Stroud 25 and 40, you said, or 25 and 50?
25 and 40.
25 and 40. I'm going to pair that with something else because I agree with your take on quarterbacks rushing. Maybe I'm probably going to pair it with something. It's got to be in the Commanders-Lions game. But, Kenny, thank you for joining me. Maybe we do something next week with a couple other guys that we know. We'll talk about that after the show. Thank you for tuning in. Divisional weekend. He's got to go Birds. I guess I got to scream Rams house, but I don't feel that damn confident about it. Jared Verse, just from a friend point of view. Next time you're going to Philly and you're playing a playoff game, shut the fuck up and don't give them any more ammunition than they already have. I'll give you the go Birds. Get the last word in, Kenny.
Go Birds. And I want to say this. If you are a Rams fan and you live in the area and you want to go to the game, go to the game. Have fun. You're not going to get bullied. You're not, you might get bullied a little bit, but like you're not going to get jumped. I know that the story of the week was that, the Eagles fan like berating that woman. Hey, he got fired. He was an asshole. But the Packers fans that were there, there's another side of their story too. So I want to just defend the Philly fans, Philly faithful. PropHolliday, if you showed up to the Eagles game tomorrow in a Rams jersey and we're having a good time and busting balls, you would still have a great time. Philly is a great place to watch a game. Don't believe what you see in the media. I leave it at that. Go Birds.
I would only go to the game with you. I would not go with anyone else. Being Jersey, I hear a shit ton of horror stories. I got one. A guy went to a Mets-Phillies game with his 8-year-old son. He goes in the parking lot to use the porta potty. They flipped the porta potty. So when I heard that this guy called some woman a dumb cunt, I went, wow, they're really taming it down in Philly. But no, I would I personally would stay away just because of horror stories I've heard from friends who Giants and Jets games. But the rivalry between the Rams and Philadelphia is not anything like Giants and Jets. So maybe it would be a little bit different. But it's going to snow. It's going to be cold. I will watch from the warmth of my home and hope that the Rams can somehow make it a game. Kenny,
You need both.
thank you for coming, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Peace, homie.